In life, some truths arrive not with words, but with silence so heavy it could crush your heart. Dr. Aaron Miles had always believed that justice was clear, rules were sacred, and wrong was wrong. But that belief was about to be tested in the most painful way imaginable. Because one night, in the trauma ward of St. Augustine Medical Center, a man in chains would be wheeled through those doors. And with one simple gesture, one pull of a surgical mask, Aaron would realize that life isn't black and white. It's blood and bone. And sometimes, the man society condemns is the same man you once called brother. It was a stormy Thursday in downtown Atlanta. The rain came down like judgment from the heavens, sharp, relentless, unending. Dr. Aaron Miles moved briskly through the corridors of St. Augustine, white coat flaring behind him, his face the very picture of discipline. To everyone who worked under him, he was Dr. Miles, head of trauma, known for his precision, his rules, his refusal to let emotion cloud his decisions. He wasn't cruel, just unyielding. He'd grown up in the South, in a small working-class neighborhood where people worked hard and trusted the law. His parents had raised him on the gospel of accountability. His father, a war veteran, used to say, "If you do wrong, you face the consequences, no matter who you are." That principle had shaped Aaron's career, his faith, his very identity. But principles, as he was about to learn, are easy when the world doesn't test them. It was nearly midnight when the emergency room burst into chaos. A guard shouted from the doors, pushing a stretcher through with paramedics on both sides. "Gunshot wound. Suspect in custody. He's losing pressure fast." Aaron turned, stepping forward out of instinct. Then he saw the orange jumpsuit. Handcuffs. A police escort. He froze. The prisoner on the stretcher was bleeding out from a wound near the ribcage. His face was obscured by a breathing mask, his hair matted with rain and blood. "Who's this?" Aaron asked sharply. "Name's Marcus," the officer replied. "Armed robbery gone wrong. Shot a store clerk. We're under orders to keep him alive for questioning." Aaron's jaw tightened. A criminal. Another thug who thought life was cheap. He looked down at the man struggling to breathe, his hands trembling slightly against the restraints. Every instinct in Aaron screamed, "Don't get emotionally involved. Just do your job." He nodded curtly. "Prep trauma bay 2. Keep him stable. Don't remove the restraints." The nurses moved quickly, cutting away the jumpsuit, cleaning the wound, setting up for surgery. Aaron washed his hands mechanically, forcing his thoughts away from the moral weight pressing on him. As he entered the operating room, he reminded himself, this isn't about who he is. It's about saving a life. Still, something about the man's posture, his voice, a hoarse murmur as anesthesia took hold, stirred something buried deep in Aaron's memory. The tone. A rhythm. A name almost forming on his lips, but vanishing before it reached the surface. He shook it off. "Scalpel," he said. The surgery began. For the next 3 hours, the room was filled with the rhythm of machines and the measured tone of Aaron's commands. He worked like a man at war with his own conscience. At one point, the prisoner's heart rate dropped. A nurse gasped, "We're losing him." Aaron's voice cut through like steel. "Not on my table. Charge the paddles." One shock. The monitor steadied. Aaron exhaled slowly. "He'll live." He peeled off his gloves and walked out of the room without another glance. To him, the job was done. But that was just the beginning. The next morning, Aaron walked into the ICU to check on post-op patients. The hospital was quieter now, sunlight slanting through the blinds. The police officer stood at the door of the prisoner's room. Aaron nodded. "Vitals. Stable. Still sedated." Aaron walked closer, clipboard in hand, and for the first time, really looked at the man's face. The swelling had gone down. The oxygen mask was gone. His skin was a warm brown tone, his hair a little longer than regulation short. His jawline was familiar. Too familiar. Aaron's throat tightened. He reached forward, brushing away a trace of dried blood from the man's temple. A scar. A small crescent mark just under the left eye. His hand froze. He knew that scar. He'd seen it 1,000 times before, On the boy who used to share his bunk bed, the one who taught him how to fix a bike chain, the one who disappeared after getting caught up with the wrong crowd. The man lying there wasn't just a prisoner. It was Michael Miles, his brother. Aaron stumbled backward, the clipboard clattering to the floor. For a moment, the world tilted, sounds fading into a dull hum, nurses' chatter, machines' steady beeps, the low hum of fluorescent lights. None of it mattered, because lying there, cuffed to a hospital bed, was his brother, Michael, the boy who vanished 12 years ago after getting arrested in a small-time theft case. The one Aaron had refused to visit in juvenile detention. The one he'd told their mother was a lost cause. Aaron's chest constricted as memories hit him like waves. He could still see their childhood, the backyard baseball games, the nights they whispered dreams about leaving their small Georgia town, about becoming something. But life hadn't been kind to Michael. And Aaron, in his pursuit of perfection, had turned his back when his brother needed him most. And now, fate had brought him back, broken and bleeding in handcuffs. He stepped closer, whispering, "Michael?" The officer at the door looked up. "You know this guy?" Aaron stiffened. Professional instinct kicked in. No one can know. He forced a shrug. "No. Just looks familiar. You see a lot of faces in trauma." The officer nodded, turning away. Aaron stood there, heart pounding. He wanted to say something, to shake his brother awake, to ask what happened to you, but the words stayed trapped behind years of guilt. That night, he couldn't sleep. He sat in his dark office, rain pelting the windows, staring at Michael's chart. It said, "Repeat offender. Armed robbery. Assault." Cold words on white paper, reducing his brother's life to a list of failures. But Aaron remembered more than that. He remembered the kid who used to sneak extra sandwiches to homeless people. The teenager who dropped out of school to help pay bills when their father got sick. He whispered to the empty room, "You weren't supposed to end up like this." 2 days later, Michael woke up. When Aaron walked in, his brother's eyes opened slowly, hazel brown, dimmed by exhaustion but still carrying that spark of mischief. "You," Michael rasped, his voice hoarse. "Didn't think I'd see you again." Aaron froze. "Michael!" The officer shifted near the door. "You two know each other?" Michael smirked weakly. "He's my doctor. Isn't that right, Doc?" Aaron hesitated, then nodded. "That's right." When the officer stepped out to take a call, Aaron leaned in closer. "What happened to you, Mike? Armed robbery? That's not you." Michael gave a dry laugh. "You wouldn't know who I am anymore. You stopped looking." The words hit like a punch. Aaron's throat tightened. "I thought you were dead." "Sometimes I was," Michael said softly. "Just not in the way you think." For a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them was years long, filled with everything they never said. Then Michael added, "You ever wonder what happens to people after they fall through the cracks you never look down?" Over the next few days, Aaron found excuses to check on him. Reviewing vitals, adjusting meds, avoiding the truth. But his conscience was cracking. He'd learned that Michael wasn't guilty of what the reports said. He'd taken the blame for another man, a gang leader who'd threatened his girlfriend and their child. That child, Aaron discovered, was his nephew, a boy he never knew existed. Aaron felt the walls closing in. He wanted to help, to confess the truth, but his reputation, his career, everything he'd built stood in the way. At one point his supervisor warned him, "Don't get too close to that inmate, Miles. You can't save everyone." But Aaron wasn't trying to save everyone. He was trying to save his brother. One night, as rain battered the city again, Michael's condition worsened. The officer on duty called for backup. The prisoner's heart rate was dropping. Aaron sprinted to the room. Nurses moved aside as alarms blared. BP falling fast. "Get the crash cart." Aaron pressed the pads to his brother's chest. "Come on, Mike, stay with me." One shock. Michael's body jerked, then went still. For a long moment, the room held its breath. Beep, beep, beep. The heart monitor steadied. Aaron leaned against the bed, trembling. He hadn't realized he was crying until a tear fell onto his gloved hand. Michael opened his eyes weakly, whispering, "Still saving lives, huh? Even the broken ones?" Aaron laughed shakily. even the stubborn ones. But before Aaron could say more, the door burst open. A detective entered, tall, sharp suit, cold eyes. "Dr. Miles, step away from the patient." Aaron frowned. "But he's still recovering." The detective held up a folder. "We just got new evidence. Turns out your prisoner wasn't the shooter. He was the informant. The gang framed him." Aaron's heart stopped. "What did you say?" "Your brother's name will be cleared," the detective said, flipping through the file. "The real suspect's in custody." Aaron turned to Michael, whose face was pale but calm. He whispered, "Told you life's not black and white, Doc." For the first time in years, Aaron's heart felt both heavy and alive. He'd spent his entire career dissecting human lives into diagnoses and data, but now, sitting beside his brother, he understood that the hardest wounds to heal were the invisible ones. When morning came, the hospital buzzed with whispers. Word had spread. The inmate in ICU wasn't a criminal after all. He was an innocent man caught in the machinery of broken justice. And the head surgeon who'd operated on him? His own brother. The hospital board called Aaron in almost immediately. The conference room was cold, sterile, lined with portraits of donors and founders. People who never got their hands bloody but always made the rules. Dr. Harris, the medical director, folded his hands. "Dr. Miles, we've been informed that you have a personal connection to the inmate you operated on. Is that correct?" Aaron met his gaze steadily. "Yes. He's my brother." Murmurs rippled around the table. Harris sighed. "You should have disclosed that relationship immediately." "I didn't know when I operated," Aaron replied. "When I found out, I stayed on because he still needed care. That's my duty as a doctor." Another board member interjected, "You put this hospital at risk. The press could turn this into a scandal. People will question our ethics." Aaron's jaw tightened. "You're worried about headlines. I'm worried about lives." The room went silent. For the first time, Aaron wasn't speaking as a doctor defending protocol. He was speaking as a man who'd learned what humanity really costs. Dr. Harris leaned back. "We'll review your case, Dr. Miles. You're suspended pending investigation." Aaron nodded quietly. "Do what you have to. But I'll stand by what I did." He left the hospital that night without his white coat, just a folded letter in his pocket. The air outside smelled like rain again. Sharp, familiar, cleansing. Michael was being transferred to another facility for evaluation before release. When Aaron arrived at the loading area, his brother was sitting in the back of an ambulance, still in cuffs but smiling faintly. "You always did like breaking the rules," Michael said softly. Aaron chuckled. "Guess I learned from you." There was a long pause, then Aaron added, "They suspended me." Michael raised an eyebrow. "For saving my life? For being your brother?" Michael looked down, the humor fading. "I'm sorry for what I put you through." Aaron shook his head. "No. I'm sorry for what I didn't do. I should have believed in you." Michael's eyes shimmered. "You did today." For a moment, time stopped. Two brothers, both scarred by different kinds of pain, finally finding the bridge between them. The officer signaled it was time to go. Aaron stepped back, his hand on the door. "When you get out, come find me. We've got a lot to rebuild." Michael nodded. "You still make that terrible coffee?" Aaron laughed through his tears. "Worse than ever." The door shut, and the van rolled into the rain, its taillights fading into the mist. Months later, St. Augustine Hospital buzzed again, not with scandal, but with pride. The story of a doctor who stood up for justice had made headlines nationwide. Public pressure had reinstated Aaron. One morning, he walked through the same doors he once left in disgrace, greeted by nurses with quiet smiles. In his office sat a small envelope with no return address. Inside was a photo, two young boys on a porch, arms slung around each other. On the back, written in crooked handwriting, "Some wounds take time, but you fixed the biggest one." Aaron smiled softly, tucking the photo into his wallet. Then he turned toward the hallway, where a familiar voice called out behind him. Michael stood there, free of cuffs, wearing a crisp jacket and a look of peace Aaron hadn't seen in years. The two brothers met halfway and embraced, no words needed. In the end, Aaron realized something every person must learn: that redemption doesn't erase the past. It heals it. We all make choices that wound others, but courage is not in pretending we're perfect. It's in facing our failures and choosing to love anyway. Because forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the only medicine that ever truly saves. Don't forget to subscribe to Hidden Tales Stories for more powerful tales that reveal the truth about love, pride, and redemption.